I want to share with you today a concept that we throw around here at Master's Choice called Feed First. And basically what this is it's that the starch digestibility of Master's Choice is available sooner than most corn silage hybrids on the market today. And so basically what we can see is that a few years ago, Cumberland Valley did a kind of a test where they took 3-week rolling averages. So every 3 weeks they averaged all the samples that came into the lab. Starting in September, saying these will be some pretty fresh corn silage samples, all the way to March the following year, and just wanted to see what aspects changed within that corn silage. Well, there was a couple things that didn't change, and I want to talk about that for a second. Crude protein, dry matter, fiber and fiber digestibility did not change over time. But soluble protein and starch digestibility changed over time. And basically what happens as you ensile a hybrid is that the starch that's encapsulated in that corn kernel, that's encapsulated in the proline protein, that proline protein begins to break down in the acids and the alcohols that are made in the fermentation process. So the longer that sits, the longer that cooks. And guys know this. Dairymen understand that when you start feeding fresh corn silage, you get kind of a slump in milk, and then it picks back up. And that's because this starch digestibility is increasing over time. Well, when Cumberland Valley looked at this, those first couple of weeks of corn silage samples that were about 21 to 28 days old, they averaged 65% starch digestibility in 7 hours. Well, with Master's Choice in our plots and all of the data that I collect as the nutrition research director, all of that data that we collect, we allow those samples to ferment for about a month, 28 days, 4 or 5 weeks, somewhere in that neighborhood. We send those in, we get those analysis so that we can really look to see what these hybrids are going to do after fermentation. So when we got the samples back after being fermented for 28 days and we got the analysis back, what we found was that the whole lineup average, the Master's Choice lineup average for that same year that Cumberland Valley did the study, that our average at 28 days in fermentation was 75% starch digestibility in 7 hours. The lab average at that same amount of time was 65%. 65% digestible is what the lab average was saying for all the samples that were sent in. So there were several thousand lab samples that were averaged for that same amount of time, and about 1,500 Master's Choice samples. So that the starch digestibility is up front. So many times, if a guy is short on feed inventory, silage inventory, what we do is we promote that he put Master's Choice in where he can get to it first and feed it if he's running tight on inventory. So there we get the term feed first. Now, that sales pitch is not going to work on every farm, but especially those farms where inventory is starting to get tight. And we probably think that in the future, banks are going to start requiring farms to kind of cut back on their 2-year inventories. And this is a place that we can really make a difference on that farm.